The morning sky above New Busan was bright and peaceful. Children played in the parks. Families sat together for breakfast. 4 million people lived their simple lives on this colony world, never knowing that death was falling from the stars. Admiral Kang Tae was drinking tea on Earth when the transmission came. His daughter lived on New Busan with her husband and 2 young children. She had sent him a video message just yesterday showing him how his grandson had learned to ride a bicycle. Now, as he watched the footage from the orbital satellites, he saw fire raining down on the city where she lived. The Valen Dominion did not warn them. They did not ask for surrender. They simply appeared in orbit with 200 warships and began burning everything below. The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, New Busan was nothing but ash and melted stone. 4.2 million humans died that day. Among them were Kang Tae's daughter, her husband, and his 2 grandchildren. High Commander Torak of the Valen Dominion broadcast a message to every human world. His gray face filled the screens, and his 4 eyes showed nothing but contempt. "Primitive creatures," he said. "You have entered space that belongs to the Dominion. You have 2 choices. Submit to our rule and serve us, or we will burn every world you have touched. You have seen what we can do. New Busan is our message. Do not make us send another." The galaxy watched and waited. The Valen Dominion had existed for 10,000 years. They ruled 400 worlds. They had crushed dozens of species before. Every civilization expected humans to surrender. After all, humans had only been in space for 300 years. They had only 17 colony worlds. They were nothing compared to the ancient Dominion. But something strange happened. Earth went silent. No surrender came. No negotiation was offered. The human government simply stopped responding to all outside communication. Advisor Naval, the Valen strategic counselor, felt worried. He had spent years studying different species, and he had recently started researching humans. What he found disturbed him deeply. He went to High Commander Torak with his concerns. "Commander," Naval said, "I have studied human history. They are not like other species we have conquered. When they fight, they do not stop at victory. They erase their enemies completely." Torak laughed at him. "They are mammals who discovered fire only moments ago in cosmic time." "What could they possibly do to us?" Naval tried to explain. He showed Torak records of human wars. He showed him images of cities destroyed completely, of entire nations burned to nothing, of weapons that could poison the land for generations. But Torak dismissed it all. "You worry too much, advisor. They will surrender within the week." On Earth, there was no panic. There were no protests demanding peace. The streets were quiet, but not with fear. They were quiet with purpose. Every factory that made civilian goods stopped and began making weapons. Every shipyard went dark, hiding what they were building inside. Dr. Seo Mina was 60 years old. She had spent her life creating weapons and had retired 10 years ago, swearing never to build another device of death. When the government came to her door, she did not ask why. She only asked one question: "How complete does the erasure need to be?" The officer looked at her with cold eyes. "Complete. Absolutely complete." She nodded and packed her bags. Admiral Kang Tae stood before the United Earth Council. He had not slept since New Busan. He had not cried. He had simply become something else. Something harder and colder than he had ever been. The council members looked at him, waiting for a speech about courage, about sacrifice, about the difficulty of the war ahead. He gave them 7 words. "They have made their choice. So have we." Then he walked out to begin his work. General Yoon Hana was given command of all ground forces. She was known for her strange tactics, for thinking in ways other commanders could not understand. When she received her orders, she gathered her staff and showed them a map of Valen space. "Mark the military targets. one of her officers said. Yun Hana shook her head. She began marking worlds on the map. She marked shipyards and military bases, but she did not stop there. She marked farms. She marked cities. She marked cultural centers and schools and hospitals. She marked everything. "General," her aide said carefully, "what are the priority targets?" She looked at him with eyes that held no emotion. "There are no priorities. It all burns. Every world, every station, every ship. We will not stop until there is nothing left." Her staff was silent. They understood now. This would not be a war. This would be an extinction. Captain Bayek Jinho stood on the bridge of his ship, the Eternal Fury. His wife and son had lived on New Busan. He had received the news while on patrol, too far away to do anything but watch the recordings. He had watched them again and again, trying to see if somehow his family had escaped. They had not. Now he looked at his crew, and he saw the same emptiness in their eyes that he felt in his heart. Everyone had lost someone. Everyone wanted the same thing. "We will make them remember New Busan," he told his crew. "We will make them remember it for 1,000 years, and then we will make sure there is no one left to remember anything at all." Ambassador Reen of the Veylan Dominion sent another message to Earth, demanding a response. This time, a human diplomat answered. Her name was Park Sua, and her face was calm like still water. "The Dominion offers you one more chance," Reen said. "Surrender now, and we will be merciful." Park Sua smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You misunderstand," she said. "We are not negotiating. We are not surrendering. We are coming. And when we arrive, we will not stop until the universe forgets you ever existed. There will be no Veylan worlds, no Veylan children, no Veylan history. You will become nothing, and in 1,000 years, when species ask about the Veylans, the answer will be silence." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, civilizations who had been watching grew afraid. But they were not afraid of the Veylans. They were afraid of the cold certainty in the human woman's voice. Advisor Naval watched the recording again and again. His hands trembled. He finally understood what he had been trying to warn Torak about. The Veylans had not started a war. They had awakened something that should have been left sleeping, and now it was too late to stop it. 6 months passed after the New Busan massacre. The galaxy believed humanity was broken. They assumed the small species was hiding in their worlds, afraid and waiting to die. High Commander Torak sent occupation forces to claim the human border colonies, expecting easy victory. What they found was emptiness. The first Veylan fleet arrived at the human colony called Haven's Rest. Their scanners showed no life signs. When ground troops landed, they found nothing. No humans, no animals, no technology. Even the buildings had been taken apart. It was as if the colony had never existed. "They fled like cowards," Torak said when he received the report. "They are abandoning their worlds without a fight." Advisor Neville disagreed. "Commander, they did not flee in panic. They evacuated with perfect order. They took everything with them. This is not fear. This is preparation." Torak ignored him again. On Earth, Dr. Seo Mina worked in a laboratory hidden deep underground. She had not seen sunlight in 4 months. Around her, hundreds of scientists worked day and night on weapons that the galaxy had never imagined. She stood before a containment field that held something terrible inside. "Project Sunfall is complete," she told Admiral Kang Tae through a video screen. "We have created artificial black holes that can be deployed as weapons. 1 device can consume an entire moon. 10 can eat a planet." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Will they suffer?" "No. It will be instant. They will simply cease to exist." "Good. I do not want them to suffer. I want them to vanish." Dr. Siomina paused. An old part of her, the part that still remembered being human, wanted to ask if they had gone too far. But then she remembered the images from New Busan. She remembered children burning in the streets. "When do we begin?" she asked. "Soon." Captain Baek Jin-ho supervised the final changes to the Eternal Fury. The ship had been transformed into something terrifying. It carried weapons that broke the laws of physics, engines that could cross half the galaxy in days, and armor that could survive the heart of a star. His first officer, Lieutenant Yu Dami, stood beside him. "Captain, the crew is ready, but I have to ask, what is our mission?" Jin-ho looked at her. "We are going to find the officers who planned New Busan. Every single one of them. And we are going to make sure they die knowing that their entire civilization will follow them into darkness." Dami nodded. She had lost her parents on New Busan. She understood perfectly. The human counterattack began without warning, but it did not target military bases or shipyards. Instead, the first human fleet appeared above Valen agricultural worlds. The Valen farming world of Green Mist had no defenses. It was a peaceful place where food was grown to feed 100 other Valen colonies. When the human ships arrived, they did not land troops. They did not demand surrender. They simply released gray clouds into the atmosphere. Within hours, every plant on the planet died. The soil itself became poison. Green Mist would not grow food again for 1,000 years. 17 other agricultural worlds suffered the same fate within 2 days. The Velan food supply chain collapsed. Worlds that depended on imported food began to starve. High Commander Torak finally realized something was wrong. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Why are they attacking farms?" Advisor Naval had been waiting for this question. "They are not trying to defeat us, Commander. They are trying to destroy the foundations of our civilization. They are attacking food, water, fuel, medicine, everything we need to survive. They do not want to win a war. They want to make sure we cannot exist." General Yoon Hana led the ground invasion of the Valen mining colony called Threk 4. Her soldiers landed in the night and moved through the colony like shadows. The Valen garrison was destroyed in 3 hours. But that was only the beginning. When the battle ended, Yoon Hana gave her next order. "Dismantle everything. I do not want a single building left standing. I do not want a single machine left working. I want the ground scraped clean. When we leave, there should be no evidence that anyone ever lived here." Her engineers worked for 5 days. When they finished, Threk 4 was bare rock. The mines were collapsed. The refineries were dust. Even the roads had been torn apart. Sergeant Cho Woo led a squad during the Threk 4 operation. He was a simple soldier, a father of 2 daughters. Before New Busan, he had never wanted to hurt anyone. Now he felt nothing as he watched Valen civilians being loaded onto transport ships. "What happens to them?" a young soldier asked. Cho Woo shrugged. "They will be taken somewhere safe. We are not murderers of innocents. But their world, their culture, their history, that all dies here. They will live, but everything they knew will be erased." The young soldier seemed troubled. "Is this right, Sergeant?" Cho Woo thought about his daughters. He thought about the children of New Busan, who had not been given a chance to be taken somewhere safe. He thought about how the Valens had laughed and celebrated their massacre. "Right and wrong stopped mattering when they killed our children," he said. "Now there is only completion." Ambassador Park Sua addressed the Galactic Council. Every major species had sent representatives, hoping to understand what was happening. They had all expected humans to be weak and desperate. Instead, Park Sua stood before them with calm confidence. "We want the galaxy to understand our position," she said. "We did not start this war. We were living in peace. We were bothering no one. The Valen Dominion chose to murder 4 million of our people because they thought we were weak. They were wrong." She paused and looked at each ambassador in turn. "We are now implementing what we call the doctrine of absolute response. When someone threatens our existence, we do not defend. We do not push them back. We remove them from existence. There will be no Velen dominion when we are finished. There will be no Velen colonies. There will be no Velen people. The galaxy will forget they ever existed." The ambassadors were silent with shock. One finally spoke. "This is genocide. You cannot do this. We will unite against you." Park Sua smiled coldly. "You are welcome to try. But ask yourselves this. If we can do this to an empire of 400 worlds that has existed for 10,000 years, what can we do to you?" No one answered. No alliance formed against the humans. Every species simply watched in horror as the extinction began. Advisor Naval sat alone in his quarters reading human history. He read about a place called Carthage, destroyed so completely by humans that salt was poured on the ground so nothing would grow. He read about cities called Hiroshima and Nagasaki, erased in seconds by weapons of terrible power. He read about wars where humans killed millions of their own kind. And he finally understood. The Velens had not attacked a young and weak civilization. They had attacked the most dangerous species in the galaxy, a species that had spent its entire history perfecting the art of total destruction. The Velans had simply been too arrogant to see it. Naval began writing his report. He titled it, "The Final Warning." But he knew it was already too late for warnings. The humans were coming, and they would not stop until there was nothing left. 1 year had passed since New Busan burned. In that single year, the Velen Dominion had lost 89 worlds, not conquered, not occupied, lost completely, as if they had never existed. Admiral Kang Tae conducted the war from his mobile command station, a massive ship called Heaven's Judgment. He never stayed in one location for more than 6 hours. He never slept more than 3 hours at a time. His officers worried about his health, but they did not dare speak to him about it. The Admiral had become something beyond human, a machine of cold calculation with only one purpose. "Show me the progress," he said during the morning briefing. The holographic map flickered to life. Red dots marked the remaining Velen worlds. There were far fewer now than before. "We have eliminated 47 additional worlds this month, Admiral," his operations officer reported. "Food production is down 93% across Velen space. Their fleet has lost 60% of its ships. Industry has collapsed. They cannot build new weapons or repair old ones." Kang Tae studied the map without expression. "What about their homeworld?" "Still heavily defended, sir, but their defenses grow weaker every day as we destroy their supply lines." "Good. We will save the homeworld for last. I want them to watch everything else die before we come for them." The Velens had started calling the human fleet by a new name, the Ghosts of Extinction. Human ships would appear without warning, strike with terrible precision, and vanish before any response could be organized. They moved faster than Velen sensors could track. They hit targets that should have been impossible to find. Captain Baek Jinho had earned the most feared reputation of all. His ship, the Eternal Fury, hunted a specific target, the military academy world where the officers who planned New Busan had been trained. It took him 8 months to find it, hidden in a remote system surrounded by defensive platforms. He destroyed the platforms in 1 day. Then he landed troops on the academy world. Lieutenant Yu Dami led the ground assault. "Sir, we have captured the command center. What are your orders regarding prisoners?" Jinho's voice came through the communication channel, empty of any emotion. "There are no prisoners. There are no survivors. Find every record, every database, every piece of information about what they taught here. Copy it all, then destroy everything else." "Understood, sir." When the Eternal Fury left orbit, there was nothing below but smoking ruins. The academy that had trained generations of Velen military leaders was gone. Its students were gone. Its teachers were gone. Even the ground itself had been burned so deeply that nothing would ever grow there again. General Yun Hana had developed a new tactic called Scorched Void. Her fleet would not just destroy targets, they would destroy the space around targets. Navigation beacons were eliminated. Trade routes were filled with debris. Communication relays were torn apart. Entire regions of Velen space became impossible to travel through. Colonies were cut off from each other. Fleets could not coordinate. The Dominion was being carved into isolated pieces, each one waiting its turn to die. Dr. Seo Mina unveiled her newest creation, self-replicating nanite swarms. These microscopic machines would be released onto a Velen world and begin consuming all technology. They could not be stopped. They could not be reasoned with. They would eat machines, computers, vehicles, weapons, everything made by intelligent hands, and they would multiply as they ate. How long until a planet is stripped clean? Admiral Kang Tae asked. Approximately 72 hours, Dr. Seo Mina replied. After that, the population will have no technology at all, no power, no transportation, no medicine. They will be thrown back to a primitive state. Will they survive? Some of them, for a while. Kang Tae nodded. Deploy the swarms on all military production worlds. Let them watch their civilization crumble before we finish them. High Commander Torak had stopped laughing long ago. He sat in his command center on the Velen homeworld, watching reports of disaster after disaster. His 4 eyes were dark with exhaustion and fear. How did this happen? He kept asking. They were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to surrender. Advisor Naval stood nearby, his own face gray with despair. I tried to warn you, Commander. Humans do not think like us. They do not fight like us. When they feel threatened, they do not seek to defeat their enemies. They seek to erase them. There must be a way to stop them, Torak said desperately. There is not. I have studied their history. Once humans commit to this kind of war, they do not stop. They cannot stop. It becomes part of who they are. They will keep coming until there is nothing left of us. Ambassador Reen volunteered to negotiate. She traveled to meet with Admiral Kang Tae, hoping that some deal could be made. She offered everything the Dominion had: territory, resources, reparations, slaves, anything. Kang Tae listened to her offers in silence. When she finished, he spoke slowly. 6 months ago, surrender was possible. You could have paid for what you did, and some of your people would have survived. But you did not surrender. You thought we were weak. You thought time was on your side. You were wrong. Rin's voice trembled. Then what do you want? What will make you stop? Nothing will make us stop. There is no negotiation now. There is only completion. We will continue until the last Velen world is ash, until the last Velen ship is debris, until the last Velen record is erased. And then we will stop, because there will be nothing left. Reen returned to the Velen homeworld with no hope to offer. The other galactic civilizations tried to intervene. A coalition of 12 species sent a formal request to humanity, asking them to stop the destruction. Ambassador Park Sua met with their representatives. We understand your concern, she said politely, but we did not start this war. We asked for nothing but peace. The Valens chose to murder our people. Now they must face the consequences. But this is genocide, one ambassador protested. You are killing billions. Park Sua's expression did not change. Yes, we are. And when we are finished, we will return to our peaceful lives. We will trade with you. We will cooperate with you. We will be good neighbors. But the galaxy needs to understand something. If anyone ever attacks our people again, we will do the same to them. There are no exceptions. There is no mercy. There is only absolute response. The coalition did not form an alliance against humanity. They did not send ships to help the Velens. They simply watched and learned the most important lesson the galaxy had ever received. Sergeant Cho Wu stood on the surface of what had been the Velan cultural capital. The planet had held 10 billion Velans. It had been the center of their art, their music, their literature, their history. Now, it was silent and empty. His squad had been among the first to land after the orbital bombardment. They had moved through ruins for days, ensuring that nothing survived. Now their work was done. A young soldier approached him. "Sergeant, do you feel anything, looking at all this?" Cho Wu considered the question. He looked at the ash that had once been buildings, the silence that had once been a civilization. "No," he said finally. "I feel nothing. None of us do anymore. We are just doing what needs to be done." He recorded a message for his daughters that night. He did not tell them what he had done. He only said, "I am doing this so no one will ever do it to you. When this is over, you will live in a galaxy that knows better than to threaten humanity. That is my gift to you." Then he deleted the message. Some things were better left unsaid. 2 years had passed since the war began. The Velan Dominion, which had once ruled 400 worlds, now controlled only 23. The end was coming, and everyone knew it. Admiral Kang Tae stood in the memorial garden on the rebuilt New Busan colony. The planet itself was still dead, but humans had constructed a massive memorial there, a garden of stone and steel that held the names of every person who had died in the massacre. He found his daughter's name on the wall. Beside it were the names of her husband and his 2 grandchildren. He touched the cold stone and felt something crack inside him. For the first time since the war began, Kang Tae wept. He had become a monster. He knew this. He had ordered the deaths of billions. He had erased a civilization that had existed for 10,000 years. And he felt that his daughter would not recognize the thing he had become. But he also knew that he could not stop. The work had to be completed. The galaxy had to learn the lesson. Otherwise, someday, another species would attack human children, thinking humans were too kind to respond. He wiped his tears and returned to his ship. There was still work to do. General Yoon Hana led her forces into the Velan inner worlds. These were the oldest colonies, the hearts of Velan culture. They held museums, libraries, temples, and monuments that had stood for thousands of years. She destroyed them all. Cultural deletion, she called it. Her soldiers did not just kill Velans. They erased Velan history. They burned archives that held 10,000 years of records. They demolished temples that had been sacred for longer than humans had existed as a species. They melted monuments that commemorated ancient heroes. When they finished with a world, there was nothing left to show that the Velans had ever created anything of value. One of her officers, Colonel Nam Su, questioned the order. "General, is this necessary? They are already defeated. Must we destroy their history as well?" Yoon Hana looked at him without expression. "In 100 years, young species will ask about the Velans. If we leave their history intact, someone might admire them. Someone might want to be like them. Someone might think it was acceptable to do what they did to us. But if we erase everything, if we leave nothing but silence, then the Velans become a warning instead of an example." Nam Su nodded slowly. "I understand, General. I hope you do. This is not cruelty. This is education. The galaxy will never forget what happens to those who harm human children." Dr. Seo Mina presented her final weapon to Admiral Kang Tae. She called it the Genesis Reversal Device. It could make an entire star system uninhabitable for 1 billion years. "If we use this on the Velan homeworld," she explained, "nothing will ever live there again. Not for 1,000 million years. The system will become a permanent graveyard." Kang Tae studied the device for a long time. "Is this too far, Doctor? Have we become something evil?" Seo Mina had asked herself that question many times. "Perhaps, but consider the alternative. If we show mercy now, if we leave survivors who can rebuild, then in 1,000 years, some new Valen leader will rise and attack our grandchildren. They will think we went soft. They will think they can succeed where the old Dominion failed. The only way to prevent that is to leave nothing. Nothing at all. The line, Kang Te said quietly. Everyone asks me where the line is, what we will not do. And what is your answer? The only line that matters is the one they crossed first. Everything after that is just consequence. Captain Baek Jinho finally found his target. The specific Valen officer who had given the order to bombard New Busan was hiding on a remote station, protected by the last of the loyal Valen guards. Jinho attacked the station personally. His Marines cut through the defenders in hours. When they reached the command center, they found the officer waiting for them, surrounded by bodyguards. The battle was brief. The bodyguards died. The officer was captured alive. "Why did you not kill me?" the Valen asked. Jinho looked at him with eyes that held no humanity. "Because I want you to see something first." He brought the officer to a viewing port. Outside, they could see 3 Valen worlds in the distance, the last colonies in this sector. "Watch," Jinho said. The human fleet opened fire. The 3 worlds burned. Billions of Valens died in minutes. The Valen officer screamed in horror. "Why? Why are you showing me this?" "Because you gave the order that started all of this," Jinho replied. "I want you to understand what you created. I want you to see your entire civilization die because of your decision. And I want the last thing you ever see to be the fire you started." Then he killed the officer with his own hands. High Commander Torak could not face what was coming. He locked himself in his private chambers and recorded a final message for any future species that might find it. "We were wrong," he said, his voice broken. "We thought the humans were animals. We thought they were primitive creatures who would submit to our power. We were wrong. They are not animals. They are the universe's response to those who threaten the innocent. They are extinction given form. If you are watching this, remember our fate. Remember the Valens, and never ever harm a human child." Then he took his own life. The remaining Valen leadership fractured completely. Some fled into the unknown regions of space, hoping to hide until the humans forgot about them. They would never be seen again. Others surrendered immediately, begging for any mercy that might be offered. Advisor Naval became the leader of what remained. He did not negotiate for his people's survival. He knew that was impossible. Instead, he asked for only one thing. "Let our memory survive," he said to Admiral Kang Te. "I will write the true history of what happened. I will write about our arrogance and our mistakes. I will write a warning for all future species. Let that document survive. Let our failure teach others." Kang Te considered this for a long time. "You may write your history, but only one copy will survive. And it will serve not as your legacy, but as our warning." Naval accepted the terms. The other galactic civilizations grew increasingly frightened. A coalition of species sent a formal petition to humanity, begging them to stop the extermination. "You have made your point," their ambassador said. "The Valens are broken. They can never threaten anyone again. Surely this is enough." Admiral Kang Te met with them personally. His face was tired, and his eyes held shadows that would never leave. "You ask us to stop," he said. "But you do not understand what stopping means. If we stop now, some Valens survive. They rebuild. They remember. And in 1,000 years they come for revenge. Or another species sees that we showed mercy and thinks we are soft. They attack us. More of our children die. The cycle continues forever." He stood and walked to the window looking out at the stars. "We did not want this. We wanted peace. We wanted to explore and trade and grow. But they took our children from us. They burned our people while we begged for mercy. So now there is no mercy. There is only completion. When the last Valen is gone, when the last Valen world is ash, when the last Valen record is destroyed, then we will stop, and the galaxy will finally understand. You do not harm human children, ever, for any reason. The coalition left without another word. Ambassador Reen, who had first tried to negotiate with the humans, was granted one final audience with Admiral Kang Tae. She looked at the map showing the last 23 Velan worlds and felt despair crush her soul. "When will it end?" she asked quietly. Kang Tae looked at the map. His finger traced the remaining worlds, counting them one by one. "When there is nothing left to end," he said. 3 years after New Busan, the war ended. Not with a great battle or a dramatic surrender, but with silence. The Velan Dominion, which had ruled 400 worlds for 10,000 years, simply no longer existed. Admiral Kang Tae issued the final order from the Bridge of Heaven's Judgment. His voice was tired, empty of any emotion. "Operation complete," he said. "All forces, stand down." There was no celebration, no cheering. The bridge crew simply stopped what they were doing and sat in silence. Some stared at nothing, some quietly wept. But no one felt victory. They had done what needed to be done, and now it was over. Kang Tae looked at the map one final time. Every red dot was gone. Every Valen world was ash. He closed the display and walked off the bridge. The next day, he submitted his resignation. He disappeared to an unnamed colony on the edge of human space and was never seen in public again. Those who knew where he went said he built a small house and spent his remaining years in silence, tending a garden and watching the stars. The final count was released to the galactic community. 400 worlds reduced to 0, a civilization of 10,000 years erased in 36 months, 890 billion Velan casualties. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. They hoped they never would again. General Yoon Hana oversaw the demobilization of human ground forces. Millions of soldiers returned to their homes on Earth and the colony worlds. They did not march in parades. They did not tell stories of their victories. They simply returned to their families and tried to remember what normal life felt like. Many of them never could. Yoon Hana noticed something strange about the returning soldiers. They did not celebrate. They did not boast. When asked about the war, they would go quiet and change the subject. It was as if they had collectively agreed that what they had done should not be spoken of. She retired from military service a year later. In her final speech, she said only, "We did what we had to do. Now we must try to be human again." Dr. Seo Mina spent her first day of peace gathering every piece of research she had created during the war. Every weapon design, every formula, every prototype schematic. She brought them all to a secure facility, and she destroyed them all. Her assistants were shocked. "Doctor, these are the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Any government would pay fortunes for them." Seo Mina shook her head. "These weapons were not meant for a species that wants to remain human. They were created for a specific purpose, and that purpose is complete. If we keep them, if we improve them, if we use them again, we will stop being the people we were before this war. We will become something else. Something I do not want to see." She watched the last of her life's work burn to ash. "This is how we stay human," she said quietly. "We remember what we can become, and we choose not to become it again." Captain Baek Jinho returned to the memorial on New Busan one final time. He stood before the wall where his wife's and son's names were carved and removed every medal from his uniform. He placed them at the base of the wall. "It is done," he said to the silence. "They paid for what they did to you. All of them. I hope you can rest now." He walked away from military service and never returned. He took a job on a cargo ship, spending his remaining years moving between the stars, never staying anywhere long enough to form connections. Those who worked with him said he was kind but distant, as if part of him was always somewhere else. Sergeant Cho Woo came home to his 2 daughters. They ran to him when he entered the door, and he held them for a long time without speaking. His wife watched from the doorway, seeing something different in his eyes, but saying nothing. That night, his oldest daughter asked him the question he had been dreading. "Father, what did you do in the war?" Cho Woo looked at her small face, her innocent eyes, and felt the weight of everything he had done pressing on his heart. "I made sure no one will ever do to you what they did to New Busan," he said finally. "That is all that matters." She seemed satisfied with the answer. She hugged him and went to bed. Cho Woo sat in the darkness for hours, unable to sleep, wondering if his daughters would still love him if they knew the truth. The galactic community moved quickly to establish new protocols. They called it the Human Exclusion Doctrine. Despite its name, it was not designed to contain or isolate humanity. It was designed to ensure that no species would ever provoke them again. The doctrine required all civilizations to recognize human space as absolutely protected. Any attack on human territory would be treated as a crime against the galaxy itself. Any species that threatened human children would face immediate isolation and sanctions from every other civilization. It was not protection for humanity. It was protection from humanity. Advisor Naval, the last keeper of Valen memory, was allowed to survive. He spent 20 years writing The Final History, a complete record of the Valen Dominion and its destruction. The document was distributed to every known species in the galaxy. It began with a simple warning. "Read this and understand. The Valens were ancient and powerful. They ruled 400 worlds. They destroyed civilizations before humanity had discovered fire. And they were erased from existence in 3 years because they harmed human children. Let our extinction be your education. Do not provoke the humans." Naval died alone, the last Valen in the universe. His history survived him, translated into thousands of languages, taught in schools across the galaxy. Ambassador Park Sua addressed the Galactic Council one final time. She looked at the representatives of 100 species, all watching her with a mixture of respect and fear. "We did not want this war," she said. "We never wanted any of this. For 300 years, humanity explored space in peace. We traded, we cooperated, we made friends, and then the Velans killed our children because they thought we were weak." She paused, letting her words sink in. Now the Valens are gone. Their worlds are ash. Their culture is erased. Their history is a warning. We take no joy in this. We mourn what we had to become to survive. But understand this clearly. If anyone ever attacks our people again, if anyone ever harms our children again, we will do the same thing. There are no exceptions. There is no mercy. There is only absolute response. She stepped back from the podium. "Be good neighbors to us, and we will be good neighbors to you. Trade with us, cooperate with us, and you will find us kind and generous. But do not ever, ever mistake our kindness for weakness. The Valens made that mistake. Learn from their fate." 100 years passed. The galaxy settled into a new peace. Humanity expanded, colonized new worlds, made new friends. They were known as reliable trading partners, skilled diplomats, and generous allies. But they were also known for something else. Every species taught its children the story of the Valens. Every military academy studied the human war doctrine. Every leader remembered what had happened to those who had underestimated the small mammals from the blue planet called Earth. Young aliens would sometimes ask their elders about the Valens. Who were they? What were they like? Where did they come from? The elders would shake their heads. "Who?" they would say. I do not know that name. And that was the final victory. The Valens were not remembered as enemies. They were not remembered as victims. They were simply not remembered at all. On a quiet human colony far from the centers of power, an old man tended a garden planted over ashes. He had been Admiral Kang Tae once, but now he was just a gardener who watched the sunset and waited for the end. A child from the nearby village wandered into his garden one day. She watched him work in silence for a while before speaking. "Old man, why did humans fight so hard in the war? My teacher said we killed everyone. Why did we do that?" Kang Tae looked at her. He saw innocence in her eyes, the same innocence his grandchildren had before the fire fell from the sky. He was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled sadly and spoke. "Because the ones we love are worth becoming monsters for." The girl did not understand, but she nodded politely and went home. Kang Tae returned to his garden. Above him, the stars were peaceful. Somewhere out there, the galaxy went about its business, trading and exploring and growing. And everywhere, in every species, in every world, there was one lesson that was never forgotten. Do not provoke the humans. They do not wage war. They wage extinction. And the Velans learned that lesson the hard way.